Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that changed my life and can change yours. The battlefield is in your mind. Every great thing that can ever happen to you will start with a decision inside your head. Your dreams, your discipline, your downfall. It all starts and ends in the way you think. If you don't learn to control your mind will control you. And believe me, it doesn't always have your best interests at heart. Your mind is your most powerful tool. Control it, or it will control you. That's the truth. People overlook every single day. We wake up, we scroll, we listen to voices outside of us, and we let all that noise creep into our inner world. Before we've even brushed our teeth, our thoughts have already been hijacked by fear, comparison, insecurity, or doubt. And the crazy thing is, most of us don't even notice it happening. It's like we're walking around with a loaded weapon in our hands, but no training on how to use it. The mind can either be your best friend or your worst enemy. It can build your dream or destroy your confidence. It can push you forward or hold you hostage. That's why controlling it isn't just optional, it's essential. Most people think the problem is outside. They think it's the economy, their job, their relationships, the lack of opportunity. But the real battleground isn't out there. It's in your own head. The limits you place on yourself, the things you tell yourself you can't do, the fears you feed day after day, those are the chains keeping you stuck. And the saddest part is, they're invisible. No one sees them, so no one questions them. But they are just as real as any wall. And if you don't learn how to break them, you will spend your whole life walking in circles, wondering why nothing ever changes. You've got to train your mind the same way you train your body. It takes repetition. It takes commitment. You don't go to the gym once and expect a transformation. The same rule applies to mental strength. You've got to start by becoming aware of your thoughts. Notice what kind of inner conversations you're having. Are you constantly criticizing yourself? Are you doubting every step you take? Are you replaying failures from 5 years ago like they just happened? Because that's what many people do. They live in the prison of their past because their mind is still stuck there. And until they take control and shift their thinking, nothing on the outside will change. Control begins with decision. You decide that from this day forward, you will not be a slave to every negative thought that shows up. Just because it enters your mind doesn't mean it deserves your attention. You can choose to redirect your thoughts, replace them with better ones, and feed your mind with vision, purpose, and belief. This isn't about pretending problems don't exist. It's about refusing to let those problems dictate who you are or how far you can go. You're not ignoring reality. You're deciding to lead it, not follow it. When you control your mind, you change your life. You show up differently. You handle setbacks with resilience instead of retreat. You stop second guessing yourself every time you face a challenge. You gain clarity on what you want and you develop the courage to go after it. You stop reacting and start responding. That's the difference between chaos and control, between confusion and confidence. The mind can take you to the top or drag you to the bottom, but it will only go where you tell it to. And if you don't tell it where to go, it will wander to the wrong places by default. Fear, regret, insecurity, distraction, those things are waiting to move in the moment you leave the door open. So you've got to stay aware, stay intentional, and stay disciplined. This isn't a one-time choice. It's a daily practice, a mental workout that you commit to over and over until it becomes your natural state. Because the mind is powerful, but only if you learn to master it. Discipline is the foundation of mastering your thoughts. Without discipline, your mind becomes a chaotic place where every thought, fear, distraction, and emotion runs wild without order. You wake up with good intentions, but by noon, you're already off course. You want to be focused, but your phone, your doubts, your worries, they pull you in every direction. Discipline isn't about punishment or restriction. It's about structure, clarity, and control. It's the habit of showing up for yourself even when you don't feel like it. The disciplined person doesn't wait to be in the mood to do what matters. They decide once and then they stick with it. That's where mental freedom begins, when you stop negotiating with excuses and start honoring your commitments to yourself. That's when you start building strength from the inside out. Most people live based on how they feel in the moment. They wait for motivation to hit them like a wave. But the truth is, motivation is temporary. It's a spark. Discipline is the firewood. It keeps burning long after the spark fades. You'll never achieve mental control if you let your emotions run the show. Emotions are loud, but they're not always wise. Discipline teaches you to pause, think, and act from intention rather than impulse. It puts space between your feelings and your actions, and in that space, you gain power. The power to say no when distraction calls. The power to keep going when it gets boring. The power to resist comfort when your purpose demands effort. That power doesn't come naturally. It's earned through consistency. The most successful people aren't the smartest or the most talented. They're the ones who show up daily, the ones who train their minds through habits. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They create momentum through discipline. You see someone who's calm under pressure, sharp in decisions, steady in storms. That's not luck. That's the result of disciplined thinking. They've trained themselves to respond instead of react, to focus instead of flinch, to believe instead of break. When you're disciplined in your thoughts, you don't waste energy on things you can't control. You don't spiral into fear every time something goes wrong. You stay grounded, clear, and committed. And that's how you move forward while others stay stuck. One of the biggest lies people believe is that discipline is for perfectionists. But discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about being committed. Committed to the process. Committed to showing up, failing, learning, and adjusting. Committed to the bigger picture, even when the small moments feel frustrating. Discipline says, I'm not giving in to my lazy thoughts today. Discipline says, I'm not letting fear talk me out of this again. Discipline says, this may be uncomfortable now, but it's building the version of me I need to become. You don't get to the next level in life by accident. You build your way there. One disciplined thought at a time. One small decision repeated until it becomes second nature. It's easy to blame outside circumstances for your lack of progress. It's harder to admit that your own mind is the thing stopping you. But when you take responsibility for your thoughts, you take back control. You stop being a passenger and become the driver. You stop reacting to life and start creating it. Discipline gives you that power, and it starts small. Wake up 5 minutes earlier. Say no to one distraction. Follow through on one promise to yourself. These are the building blocks of a disciplined mind. You keep stacking them until your mind becomes a place of focus, strength, and direction, not a battleground of scattered thoughts and wasted energy. Discipline isn't something you either have or don't have. It's something you build by doing the hard thing, even when your mind says to quit. Emotional control determines how far you go in life. Every decision, every reaction, every conversation is filtered through your emotional state. If your emotions are in control of you, your life will constantly feel like a roller coaster. One day you're up, the next you're crashing down, and you won't even know why. But when you gain emotional control, you gain stability. You stop living at the mercy of whatever happens to you and start living by choice. Emotional control doesn't mean you don't feel things. It means you learn how to feel without becoming overwhelmed how to pause before reacting, and how to manage your emotions without letting them manage you. That kind of control gives you power. Power over your time, your relationships, your goals, and most importantly, yourself. Too often, we let emotions take over in moments when logic and patience are what we really need. You get frustrated, and instead of taking a breath, you lash out. You get disappointed, and instead of staying focused, you shut down. You get scared, and instead of pushing forward, you run away. Those emotional reactions cost you opportunities, they cost you growth, they cost you relationships, and they build a habit of quitting under pressure. When you don't have emotional control, your potential gets buried under your moods. It's not that you're not capable. It's that you constantly pull off track by how you feel in the moment. And feelings, while real, are temporary. But the damage they can cause when left unchecked can last a lifetime. The real growth begins when you stop letting temporary emotions dictate permanent decisions. When you choose to step back and evaluate instead of explode. When you choose silence over unnecessary arguments. Focus over distraction, and peace over proving a point. That's not weakness, that's mastery. It takes strength to remain calm when everything in you wants to react. It takes maturity to understand that not every emotion deserves an audience. And it takes wisdom to know that how you respond is more important than what happened to you in the first place. Think about it. The most powerful people in the world aren't the loudest. They're the most composed. The ones who can stay clear-headed when the pressure is on. The ones who don't panic when plans fall apart. The ones who don't let anger, jealousy, or pride dictate their actions. They've trained themselves to feel, process, and respond, not to feel and explode. That kind of emotional intelligence gives them an edge in everything they do. Whether it's business, leadership, relationships, or personal goals, they move with intention, not impulse. And that's a skill you can learn too. But it starts with awareness. You have to become aware of your emotional triggers. What sets you off? What makes you shut down? What causes you to procrastinate, to argue, to self-sabotage? Once you know those patterns, you can begin to disrupt them. You can choose different thoughts. You can build new responses. You can take a breath, walk away, write it down, or speak calmly instead of reacting emotionally. That's how control is built, not through force, but through repeated awareness and adjustment. People think emotional control means being cold or disconnected, but that's not it. It's about staying grounded in the middle of a storm. It's about making sure your emotions don't cause you to say something you regret, to walk away from something meant for you, or to destroy something you've been working hard to build. Your emotions are valid, but they're not always accurate. They're not facts, they're signals. And when you learn to read those signals without being ruled by them, your life changes. You don't just survive, you lead. You don't just cope, you grow. Emotional control is the difference between reacting out of fear and responding with faith, between lashing out and leveling up, between repeating the same cycles and finally breaking free from them. Negative self-talk is a silent killer. Replace it with belief. Every day, millions of people wake up and start a conversation in their mind that no one else hears. It's quiet, it's constant, and it's incredibly powerful. That internal dialogue, the words you speak to yourself in your mind, can either build you up or break you down. And most of the time, without even realizing it, people let that voice tear them apart from the inside. I'm not good enough. I always mess things up. Nothing ever works out for me. These aren't just random thoughts. They become beliefs. And beliefs shape behavior. When you constantly tell yourself that you can't, you start acting like you can't. You stop trying. You settle. You give up before you even start. That's the poison of negative self-talk. It doesn't attack your body. It attacks your confidence, your courage, your potential. People underestimate how much their inner voice impacts their life. It shows up in how you walk into a room, how you apply for a job, how you handle rejection, and how you dream about your future. If your mind is always criticizing you, judging you, mocking your efforts, then even success will feel like failure. You'll always be chasing something that feels out of reach, not because it is, but because your self-talk convinces you that you're not worthy of having it. That's why belief is not a luxury. It's a necessity. You must believe in yourself even when it don't make sense, even when you have no proof, even when everything around you tells you to quit, because belief is what fuels action, and action is what changes your life. Replacing negative self-talk with belief isn't about lying to yourself. It's about choosing to focus on what's possible instead of what's broken. It's about recognizing that you have flaws, but you also have strengths. That you've made mistakes, but you've also learned lessons. That you're not perfect, but you are capable. This is not about fake positivity. It's about intentional thinking. It's about deciding that you are not your failures. You are not your fears. You are not your past. You are potential. And every time you speak to yourself like you matter, like you have something to offer, like you are becoming something powerful, you plant a seed of belief, and those seeds grow into habits, into courage, into resilience. You don't need to wait until you feel confident to start believing in yourself. Confidence doesn't come first, belief does. You believe enough to try, and through trying, you build confidence. You speak to yourself with respect, and slowly your actions rise to meet that standard. It's not easy. That negative voice has been speaking for years, but just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's right. You have to challenge it. Every time you hear that voice say, you can't, answer back with watch me. Every time it says you're not ready, remind yourself that readiness is built through action, not waiting. When it says you always fail, remind it of every time you stood back up. That voice will get quieter the more you replace it. And the more you speak belief, the stronger it gets. Belief is a choice. It's not based on evidence, it's based on vision. You choose to believe that something great is possible. You choose to believe that your story isn't over. You choose to believe that what's ahead of you is greater than what's behind you. And the moment you start changing the way you talk to yourself, you begin to change your entire experience of life. You show up with more presence. You take more risks. You recover from setbacks faster, not because the world has changed, but because you've changed the conversation within yourself. That is the power of replacing negative self-talk with belief. It's not about being blind to your struggles. It's about being bold in your self-respect. You cannot have a positive life with a negative mindset. The way you think determines the way you live. It shapes your decisions, your reactions, your habits, and even the way you see yourself. If your mind is constantly filled with doubt, fear, anger, or self-pity, then those emotions will bleed into every area of your life, your relationships, your work, your goals, and your daily attitude. A negative mindset creates a filter that colors every situation with limitation. Even when opportunities come your way, you'll miss them because your mind will convince you it's not possible, that you're not good enough, or that it's too late. That's the trap. You can have everything lined up in your favor, but if your thoughts are rooted in negativity, you'll find a way to sabotage it. Your mind creates your reality long before your circumstances do. Many people don't realize they're living with a negative mindset because it doesn't always shout, it whispers. It whispers when you wake up and immediately dread the day. It whispers when you scroll through social media and feel like everyone else is ahead. It whispers when you talk yourself out of taking that step, applying for that job, or believing you deserve more. These small, silent thoughts pile up and create a storm inside you. And before you know it, you're living in a state of frustration, comparison, and anxiety, not because your life is truly broken, but because your mind has convinced you that it is. That's why changing your mindset isn't some motivational slogan. It's a survival skill. It's how you reclaim your power and create a life worth waking up for. A positive life doesn't mean you won't face problems. It means you respond to problems differently. A person with a negative mindset sees a challenge and immediately thinks, why me? A person with a positive mindset says, what can I learn? The difference isn't the size of the storm, it's the strength of the foundation. And your mindset is the foundation. When you build it on strength, faith, gratitude, and vision, the storms may shake you, but they won't break you. You'll fall, but you'll rise. You'll hurt, but you'll heal. And you'll keep moving forward because your mind is not working against you. It's working for you. Changing your mindset takes effort. It requires intention. You can't just hope to be positive. You have to choose it every day. It starts the moment you open your eyes. What thoughts are you feeding? What kind of words are you speaking over yourself? What energy are you allowing into your space? You've got to protect your mind like it's sacred, because it is. What you allow in eventually comes out in how you live. So if you're constantly feeding your mind with negativity, drama, fear, and criticism, don't be surprised when you feel stuck, angry, or hopeless. But if you start feeding it with purpose, growth, belief, and gratitude, your energy shifts. Your outlook changes. You begin to attract better because you've become better inside. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about refusing to let what's wrong control how you think. There's always something to complain about, but there's also always something to fight for, to be grateful for, to grow into. A negative mindset focuses on what's missing. A positive one sees what's possible. That shift can change everything. You begin to speak differently, walk differently, and carry yourself like someone who expects good things. You stop looking at your past like a prison and start looking at it as preparation. You stop expecting failure and start expecting breakthrough. That doesn't come from luck or chance. It comes from doing the inner work, from catching negative thoughts, challenging them, and replacing them with better ones. That's how a positive life is built, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. What you focus on consistently shapes your reality. Every thought you repeat, every image you hold in your mind, every conversation you replay is contributing to the life you are living. Most people think life just happens to them, but in truth, life is responding to where your attention is going. If you constantly focus on what's wrong, what's missing, and what could go wrong next, your life begins to reflect that negativity. You start to see more problems than possibilities. You begin to expect setbacks instead of opportunities. But when you shift your focus towards solutions, growth, gratitude, and possibility, your mind becomes a tool for transformation instead of a magnet for misery. It's not magic. It's mindset. Where your focus goes, your energy flows, and where your energy flows, results start to grow. Focus is powerful because it's like a spotlight. Whatever you shine it on becomes brighter and more significant in your life. That's why two people can experience the same day, but have completely different outcomes. One is focused on what didn't go right, so they feel defeated. The other is focused on what they learned or how they grew, so they feel empowered. It's not the event, it's the interpretation. And your interpretation is shaped by what you choose to focus on. Every moment is asking you a solid question. What are you looking for? Are you looking for reasons to quit or reasons to keep going? Are you focused on how hard it is or how far you've already come? Are you focused on your fear or are you focused on your purpose? That choice is yours every single day. Most people don't realize how distracted they've become. The modern world pulls your attention in 1,000 directions. Social media, news, negativity, gossip, fear. It's all competing for your focus. And if you don't intentionally choose where your focus goes, it will be chosen for you. That's how people end up living lives that don't align with their values. They wake up and go through the motions, pulled by everything except purpose. But the moment you take control of your focus is the moment you begin to take control of your life. You stop reacting to everything around you and start creating a direction within you. Focus turns intentions into action and visions into reality. Without focus, even the biggest dreams get lost. With focus, even the smallest steps create momentum. Think of focus as a mental filter. If you train your mind to filter for growth, solutions, opportunity, and blessings, your life starts to reflect those things back to you. You'll notice doors you didn't see before, people who can help you, moments that inspire you, and strength within you that was always there. But if your filter is set to fear, drama, or limitation, you will miss those gifts completely. It's not because they're not there. It's because your focus was too scattered to see them. That's why clarity and focus go hand in hand. The clearer you are about what matters to you, the easier it becomes to focus on it. And the more you focus on it, the more of it you begin to experience in your life. To change your reality, start by changing what you pay attention to. Begin each day by asking yourself, what am I choosing to focus on today? Is it your goals, your values, your peace, or is it distractions, comparisons, and complaints? The answer to that question determines the quality of your day and ultimately the direction of your life. Focus is not just a mental exercise, it's a way of living. It's a decision to live on purpose rather than by default. And that decision, repeated over time, becomes your identity. It becomes the way you show up, the way you think, and the way you respond to everything around you. Focus makes the difference between wondering and winning, between settling and growing, between staying where you are and stepping into everything you were meant to become.